Hi everyone, I'm Laura Tempest Zakroff, and today we are going to be exploring the anatomy of a witch. It's based on my newest book, and it is all about embodying your magic. So I hope you're ready to be present. I know it's a virtual format, but it's always good to be in touch with our bodies. I'm going to start off with, first I'm going to set up a little slideshow when I have a moment to do that. Otherwise, I will forget to do that. So let's get that moving. Excellent. And just take a moment, take a breath. I'll read you a poem. The witch's body is a constellation of stars, eyes that pierce the darkness, lips that speak in song and silence, ears attuned to the voices of spirits, lungs that breathe the liminal, a heart of fire pulsing an ecstatic dance, hips full of serpent wisdom, fingers that weave the mysteries, and feet that kiss the earth. So what is the anatomy of a witch? What we're looking at is a metaphorical, symbolic system to tap into our physical bodies, which is our most important primary tool for working magic. We have a tendency to get very much in our heads, which is, it's great to be academic. It's great to have lots of thoughts about things. Magic starts with thought, but we often start to invest ourselves in the tools, the stuff of magic and witchcraft, and forget that right here we are magic embodied. So we're going to explore these 5 sections that make up the magical body that help us tap into our physical bodies. And it's important to keep in mind that the body is a vessel for magic, but it's so much more than just some container. It is multifaceted. It is a miraculous residence. It is a union of flesh and spirit. It is where the physical and metaphysical worlds intersect right there in your body. Within blood, breath, and bone, we find the witch's body, the witch's flesh, the witch's thought, the witch's spirit. We are connected to the world around us, the seen and unseen. We tap into those universal rhythms. We follow the beat of our heart and make that rhythm. We listen to the primal self within. We find a balance between action and rest. We look to traditions to provide structure to build upon, as well as create new traditions every single day. We find rituals within rituals to add meaning and substance to our existence. And we are guided by wisdom that is both mysterious and metaphysical, practical and profound. Really, the body is our most powerful immediate tool in our possession. And so the anatomy of a witch, as I said, is symbolic, and it's also tangible. We can connect it to our physical bodies as a guide to our magical bodies. So first, starting with the witch lungs. All right, so everyone, I want you to take a nice deep breath in and exhale. Another deep breath in and exhale. And lastly, one more deep breath in and exhale. Now think about the air that has entered into your body as you inhale, becoming part of your bloodstream, moving throughout. And as you exhale, your breath becomes part of the world around you. And so symbolically, the witch lungs teach us about interconnectivity, that as we breathe in part of the world, we exhale part of ourselves. That we are connected to the trees, the plants, animals, the earth, everything around us, each other, right? To understand that. It's part of the mysteries of magic. Also, it's what I like to call the known invisible. So we generally can't see air, right? You can see the effects of air all around you. You can feel it as you bring air into your body and exhale it, but you can't quite see it. You can't see those little particles of oxygen and other different airs and gases that move into our bodies and out of our bodies. And I like to put this as a metaphor for magic itself, right? very often we can't see magic, but we know it exists, and not how the larger society looks at magic in terms of fantasy and play, but that it is part of how we exist and how we interact with the world and the mysteries that are there. So as we breathe, we're reminded about the existence of magic. Breath also reminds us about creating spaces. And in magical workings, we're often casting circles, looking at altars and shrines, creating cleansing space, whether it's our bodies, whether it is a household, whether it's working together in a community space. And so we can become more aware of creating, right? Containing what is permeable and what is protected. Because not everything that we want to do is going to be an airtight container, right? Sometimes we want to have that movement between ourselves and the world around us, and the spirits or deities that we might be working with, the spirits of land. The witch lungs also teach us about sovereignty, to understand that this space, right? Our bodies is our space, that we are autonomous in ourselves. And to be able to tap into that part of ourselves that says, this is where I exist, and this is where I have influence over myself, over situations, environments, and others. So within that, we find the witch's lungs. Next, the witch heart. So put a hand on your chest and right there around your sternum. Take a moment and feel your heart beating. Right? That is the pattern, the rhythm, the pulse of life. And within the witch heart, it teaches us so much about patterns and the directions that we choose to go and the motion. For when our hearts are in motion, we are in motion. So what the witch heart asks of us is thinking about what moves you? What rhythm do you wish to make or to find in the world and get yourself caught up in that dance? And to also think about blood, right? The blood that moves through our hearts, our physical hearts, is a wonderful metaphor for ritual itself, that we have ebbing and flowing, that we go out, right? The oxygenated blood goes from the center in our lungs out all the way to the extremities of our bodies, collects that which we don't need, and purifies and cleanses. And when we look at ritual, so much of ritual is about keeping things in order, whether we are looking at a wheel of the year, the cycles and seasons around us, whether we are honoring life and death, initiations and dedications. Ritual taps into all of that and helps keep us in motion. And it's so important to also remember that ritual in itself and these motions that we do not have to be grandiose things, big complicated things with lots of stuff, robes and tons of candles and tons of preparation. Ritual is those little things, right? When you get up in the morning, you have a set way that you often like to do things, whether you get up and you brush your teeth, you take a shower, you have your first hot cup of beverage or smoothie or whatever you drink in the day, and you might set upon your world and interact with it. And those moments of being connected to what we often just dismiss as the mundane can be powerful moments of connection. Think about when those daily rituals, right, those daily little actions that we do are interrupted, everything else tends to go into disarray until we find a moment to ground or reconnect or find that pattern again. So within the witch heart, we start to see those patterns and those impact and see the small rituals. The daily ritual does not have to be something that is complicated or exhausting for you, but simply already what you're doing every day and finding the magic within that. So within that, we cleanse ourselves, we energize ourselves, and we set the pulse, right? So whether you need it to be a slow and relaxing day or month or cycle, to energizing and activating things, to cleanse, to banish whatever it is needed. The next section we're going to talk about is the serpent. And the serpent is the witch's intuition or the witch's gut. It is the most primal part of ourselves. So take a moment and feel your belly. All right, take a breath. Exhale. right? And there within your belly, this area has digestive organs, much of the digestive system, right? Parts of the endocrine system. We have the base of our spine. We have the hips. We might have reproductive organs there. All of this kind of taps into the most primal parts of ourselves. And in the cauldrons of Posey, those of you familiar with my work, we do revisit the cauldrons of Posey in Anatomy of a Witch, and the primary one is the cauldron of warming, and this is that kind of fetch energy, the animalistic part of ourselves, that which is concerned with keeping us alive, and much of the serpent energy taps into that. So we have intuition. When you think about the Pythia, right, that is the oracle at Delphi. When we have those visions and thoughts and see, and we feel it in our guts, right? How many times have you heard that? Oh, I got that gut feeling. And this has to do with actual nerves in our body, the vagus nerve, as it is connected from the brain down into the intestines and the stomach. All of those things are connected and are sending off signals. So when we can feel and listen, most important, listen and pay attention to those sensations, we can delve deeper into our intuition as magical practitioners. Within the serpent, we also have themes of creation and renewal and healing. So many different primary stories from around the world start with some sort of serpent or dragon whose body creates the earth, or the serpent itself creates the earth, all the way to the stories of temptation in the Bible, where, right, this is the story, this is the beginning of acknowledgement of civilization, of change. And we can use that to also change ourselves and to create and recreate ourselves and to find healing within that. And we also can look at protection. So when we think about the serpent, being able to strike, being able to hide, to be able to maneuver, as well as, you know, some of my favorite hearth deities are represented as small serpents, right? So thinking about how they protect and guide. So when we listen to ourselves, we can tap into the warning, right? Pay attention, see what's going on here, and avoid drama and to avoid perhaps harm in some way, whether it's spiritual harm or physical harm, to think about all that. And so that we find within the realm of the serpent. Next, we have the witch bones. So the witch bones, here it's going to be a little hard. Touch your bones. Of course, you can touch your teeth if you want, but I'm going to suggest take a moment and think about your feet. Right? If you had put your feet for a moment on the ground, right, or perhaps just your hands on the closest surface to you, and just think for a moment of that contact, of being grounded and feeling the surface around us. So the witch bones, when we think about our bones, our skeleton provides structure, right? It is strength, right? It protects those internal organs, which, thinking about it, the internal organs are the most occult thing about you, right? Nobody actually can see those unless they open you up, right? And there's so much workings and mysteries that even modern science has still not figured out when we think about our bodies. So next time you think about, like, I have occult organs within me, so you get extra points for that. So with the witch bones, the strength and the structure. Another aspect of when you think about blood, right? Blood, the part of the blood cells are actually made within the bones. So all of these systems, these metaphors I'm talking about, connect back to the body, but also look at each other, right? They're all interwoven. And when we're considering strength and form, structure, we often think about tradition, where we're coming from. And there's so many varieties of magical practices and traditions out there. It's often good to know how things are done, why they were done, and why we might continue to do them or why we might stop doing them. So this wisdom is recognizing what is important about tradition and what parts of tradition need to be reformed, recreated, made anew. And we do make new traditions every single day. If you look back at the last year, you will recognize that there are traditions, there are new things that you have done that have affected your life patterns, that have created rituals within how you function on a day-to-day basis and how you interact with other people. And so we're creating those moments. The witch bones also tap into our ancestral stories and cells, whether it is those who are close who have passed on, the mighty dead, or going all the way back in human civilization, those type of ancestors. So reveling in those mysteries and also thinking about the legacy of ourselves. I often like to say that witches love bones. We love bones. We love skulls. We like these things, these reminders. For many people, those are reminders of death, and they're like, "Oh no, not bones." But they're like, "But this was a vessel for spirit, like something living inhabited that." And I think that fascinates us. And I think we're also recognizing that the entry into death, the movement into that, is just another cycle. It's part of ourselves, and that we are created of those that have come before us, that we are part of that earth, going back to our interconnectivity with the witch lungs. And it also taps into the spirits of place. Where we live affects what we practice. You might be from another area, but where you're living right now, its seasons, the way the air is, the way the land and the animals and the plants all react and move through the seasons has a profound effect on your practice. And so the witch bones remind us to look to the land beneath our feet, the space around us, and acknowledge that to make our practice more in touch with the world. And then lastly, we have the witch mind, or what I also call the weaver. And we hit the mind last, which might seem a little strange for some folks, but because I said early on, we tend to exist so much in our heads that when we do that, we forget about the rest of the body and acknowledging it. So the mind does play an important role, but we kind of want to touch base with all of those other parts of ourselves and then look at this sort of as the mission control. It is a place for mediumship. It is that cauldron of inspiration. We are a conduit for spirit. As I said, we are kind of this amazing residence, right? This temple within. And here we can look at direction. Where do we want to go in a larger scheme for our magical practice? What is the journey that we're looking at? How do we want to interact with each other? And some exploring the communication between all of these systems. That one is not greater than the other, but they all are working together. And I call it often the weaver because, if those of you familiar with the weave the liminal, is that we're all threads. And our paths are creating patterns. We are creating stories. And here we're thinking about what are the threads that we choose to make our stories profound, to remove the things that we don't wish for our lives, and to draw in the threads what we do to change those patterns or within our power. So that brings us to the witch mind. And to kind of roll this up, we delve deeper into how we can use all of this within the body. But kind of the main things I want you to think about here is that magic exists within and without. That everything we do has an impact, that what we think has an impact on ourselves and how we interact. And that magic is present, right? It's not just outside, it is within you. And that movement and balance, so those are many ways to explore how we interact with the world. And it doesn't mean you have to dance, right? It depends on your ability and how much you wish to interact with the world. But balance isn't always about keeping everything nice and neat. Sometimes balance is very much in the nature of the solstices, as we're here in the Northern Hemisphere working towards the summer solstice. Cheers to all the folks who are going towards the winter solstice down under. Those are points of extreme, right? But they're still balanced between extreme dark and extreme light. Both of those things, the same as the equinoxes, right? There is always movement between those. I also recommend love of practice, to keep in mind that your practice itself, if you interact with it as a personality, as an entity unto itself, that it can become more real for you in many ways. And to see it as sort of something that isn't looking down at you, isn't judging you. It just wants to be in this relationship with you. So if you see your magical practice as that aspect of self or something to interact with, suddenly it feels more powerful and perhaps less weighed down. To be temple-minded is to look at your body as a temple, but not in sort of, oh, your body is a temple. Your body is a temple, meaning that there's a lot of work to get done in that temple. Somebody's got to clean those bathrooms. Somebody's got to set the schedule. There is landscaping to be done, right? There's who gets to, come in and worship the temple at different times. All of this is about being temple-minded. So that is something to explore. And lastly, the map of the stars is thinking about you yourself as star stuff, as a constellation, and what is the direction, the map that you wish to follow as you journey in this spiritual path with yourself, with those around you, and to be a sense of guidance, to recognize that other people are illuminated by your presence, right, by what you bring to the world. And if you can honor that within yourself, then it really does manifest. It does recognize the magic and really is a beautiful sense of self. So I'm going to stop sharing this. Hi everybody. So I did it in 20 minutes. Now we can open things up for questions. So I'm going to take a drink. It's just tea. It's too early here today. All right. So I'll also show you waiting here. This is the book. So the art that you saw in the presentation, those were sketches that I did as I was developing the book. So yes, all of the art that you saw today is my art. And there is also extensive drawings in this book, as well as sigils. There's so much. I didn't want this to be like just a promo for the book, but to give you a sense of like what is this idea that I'm talking about here. So give you a little peek and look at what's going on here. All right, looking for questions. Yay, I know they're shipping, and that's what folks are saying. They're on their way or coming soon. Here's a little thing about hearts. So we talk about the elements in this book, and I use the tarot because I'm a big fan of the tarot, from the Fool card all the way to the Hermit card, to recognize that journey. Because when you look at the major arcana, it is this larger journey of life, of how we're exploring things. And so we also use that as a guide to our body. Thank you all. Thank you all. Hi. Lucinda has a question. Hi, Lucinda from San Francisco. Thank you. My question is, do these aspects of the body correspond to the elements in your system? Like lung, oops, it's going by fast. So yes. So there are 2 points I make in this book. First is that all the elements are present within your body. So earth, air, water, fire, spirit, right? They're all conscious and present within your body. But each of the different systems can be more heavy in one particular area, such as we're looking at first lungs, air, right? The air is present in there, but there's also reactions that happen. So you can look at the fire as heart, but you might also, you can look at heart as fire, but you can also look at it as water, right? There is internal combustion that's happening in there. The same with the serpent. It can be water, but it can also be fire for creation, as well as earth aspects into itself. So I talk about all of that in the book and how you can be more open to seeing that. Because that's another concept often that we tend to think of as external, right? That we call these elements into a circle, but they're already present, so we're acknowledging them. So another question is, do you know when you have more books available on your site? Yes, if you're looking for signed books from me, they should be live this weekend. I am processing a whole bunch of pre-orders. Thank you to everybody who pre-ordered. Hopefully getting all of those out by the end of this weekend or early next week. So keep an eye on the shop, and I'll announce that in a few places. So let's see. A few other little questions in here. See if I missed anything. So Mooncheek asked, so if you're having stomach issues, does that mean you need to work on something? It can. All right, first, always recommend seek medical advice, seek responsible medical advice. But thinking about stress, right? Stress can be something that is an invisible concept, right? We don't often see stress, but think about when you are stressed, how that affects often your digestive system. It affects your skin. It affects your mental and emotional well-being. So some things that we do when we're really nervous can affect us in negative ways. So I do talk about some of the different types of rituals and approaches you can use to consider what's going on and work with that so that you can alleviate some of those problems. Mike asked, what's my favorite deck? The tarot. So the tarot that I use, I have many decks, but my first deck, and it's the one I still use, is Legend the Arthurian Tarot, which is published by Llewellyn. It was the first deck I was ever getting. I'm on my second because it needed to be replaced after a couple decades. I love Arthurian romance too, so I love being able to tell stories. So much of it is being able to, I think that we learn from stories, that we relate better to stories rather than just being like, you need to do this. Like if you understand how other people go through things, often you can understand it more personally and enact action in your life. Let's see. Let's see if have I missed any other ones? Chris asked if I'm doing Philly Pride, Pagan Pride again. I hope so. We'll see when that happens. I'm looking forward to being able to travel again and to see folks. I love being able to tour around and teach workshops and meet people and do book signings and performances and such. So we'll see as the world opens back up. I think we're really going to see a lot more touring and events next year, but we'll see. So, all right. Do I have a website with more resources? Yes, so you can go to lauratempestzakroff.com, so just my name. You can also find that via Instagram. I have a link tree in there. You can also look me up on YouTube. So a thing I've been doing on YouTube as well is the Witchwell workout. And I kind of developed that because folks who were early readers of this book wanted to know how to do some of those exercises. And it's kind of hard sometimes to be able to read, right, and know how you're supposed to move or feel about something. So there are free resources on my YouTube channel to also help you engage with the book and explore this. And because this is an ongoing thing, I don't expect you to read this book and in a weekend be fully in touch with your body. I expect this to be a journey that is ongoing, that you come back and you revisit it and contemplate these sections, because it's not just a one-time thing. It is an everyday, those little rituals, those little moments, and revelation. We're always learning more about ourselves, and as well as about magic in the world around us. So being open to that and being able to recreate and renew that is a wonderful experience. It's something to be honored and not just, read as many things as you can. Just take the time that you need. Pamela asks, a new and used tarot in the past. I'm looking for a good tarot deck for newbies. I'd say if you have the opportunity to go to a shop or see different ones online, go to ones that excite you by the artwork and the images. And that's kind of the best way, I think, to do it, is to see images that speak to you rather than saying, oh, you need to have a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Because those images might not connect with you. So look at a variety of images in both the major or minor arcana and see what works for you. Vicky asks, are there past recorded talks from you about weaving the liminal? I recently purchased and read their book. So there aren't, I don't think. I think there are short segments that I talk about on my YouTube channel. So there are concepts I touch upon, but that is a workshop I do offer on a regular basis. So I'm doing about 2 virtual workshops a month. So you can check those out on my website to sign up for those. And there's a whole sliding scale. So it's available whether you're a student or income, affected by the pandemic, all the way up to if you want to help sponsor other people. And hi, Nikki. Do I have shirts available? I think there's still a few shirts available on the website as well. And that you can get to the shop through my website. It's alchemysquare.site, but that will get you to the shop. And Willow, yes, I do cover depression a little bit in the book as well. So thank you all so much for being here. Very excited. Thank you, Llewellyn. And enjoy, embody your magic.